A mother's grief touches a city as people come together to remember Gabriel Magalhaes. An image now seared into the minds of so many. Andrea Magalhaes retracing her 16-year-old son's final moments before being stabbed at the Kiel subway station as the city comes together to support the family and call for safety improvements.
She's going to have needs for the rest of her life.
And breaking his silence, the father of a young Milton woman burned in a violent acid attack vows she'll be back stronger than ever.
Jordan Romano strikes him out and retires the Cardinals in order. And the Blue Jays win this wild game on opening day.
Plus, the bats were on fire, but pitching problems led to a wild matchup. We'll get you caught up on the Jays' winning opener. Good evening. I'm Chris Glover. Thanks for joining us on what is certainly a difficult night for a lot of people, watching parents come to grips with extreme violence against their children. We begin tonight at Kiel Station, where hundreds of people came together to mourn the stabbing death of a 16-year-old boy. Many talking about the killing of Gabriel Magalhaes and the need for enhanced safety and supports for people in distress. Dale Manuktuk is live where the vigil was held for him. And Dale, people are still arriving there to show their support, even at this late hour.
Yeah, Chris, the vigil has been over for a couple of hours, but still people are coming by. I just spoke to one woman who dropped off her grandmother's teddy bear. Her mom, she said that her mom might be upset about it, but given the circumstances, would understand. Now, Chris, emotional doesn't even begin to describe what happened here tonight. Gabriel Magalhaes' family led the vigil from Hyde Park down Bloor Street to Kiel subway station, where he was killed on Saturday night. Then they walked into the station and towards the bench where police say he was stabbed by a stranger. Then the mother, Andrea Magalhaes, and the friend who was with him that night sat down where it all happened.
This is the moment Andrea Magalhaes saw the place where her son was killed, dropping to her knees. Then she sat down in the same spot on the same bench where he was stabbed and killed, allegedly by a 22-year-old man. His friend who was with him that night recounted the incident, pointing out where the stranger charged with Gabriel's murder approached from. That friend buried his face in the comfort of others. Hundreds showed up to march alongside the Magalhaes family, from friends of Gabriel's to the Brazilian community, local politicians, and concerned citizens.
I knew him because it was like we sat together at a table and we talked, and it was nice. Like he was nice to people without needing anything back from them. And that's why we all loved Gabriel.
Gabriel's friend Daniel Bizarra, who on Sunday set up the memorial at Kiel Station, has seen it grow over the last 5 days.
It was like very little, and then 2 days later it's like huge. And there's like so many people here. I'm so thankful for everyone. And it's I'm really glad that people are coming together.
But people didn't just come to mourn Gabriel. They also came together to demand change. Melissa Blow is a nurse and co-worker of Andrea Magalhaes at Mount Sinai's neonatal intensive care unit. She and others are fed up with what they say is a lack of action from elected officials regarding transit safety and supports for vulnerable people.
We do normally take it to go to Blue Jay games. My kids love it. They want to go on it because they think it's fun. I will not take it anymore. I'm done. I'm done. The politicians, I don't want to swear, but they need to get their heads out of their asses.
Andrea Magalhaes has spent the entire week advocating for change, but tonight was about connecting with her son, gone too soon.
Andrea Magalhaes fell to the ground, Chris, several times, needing to be held up and supported by family and friends. But she's shown so much strength all week long, trying to ensure that her son's death isn't in vain. You know, I interviewed her on Monday. She's done several interviews since, talking about the need for better supports for mental health and housing. But tonight wasn't about that fight for change that she's been a champion for these last 5 days. Tonight was about her son and the community that loves him.
So much grief there, but at least it is nice to see the city coming together tonight. Dale, thank you very much. The attack on Gabriel Magalhaes is the latest in a string of violent incidents on the city's transit system. Tonight, Toronto councillors have given the top official at the TTC emergency spending powers to go towards security. Municipal Affairs reporter Sean Jeffords is following that part of our coverage tonight.
We will do this with
The TTC CEO says the moves his organization has been making to improve safety are working, but he wants to do more.
We will only spend what we need to enhance community safety and security. As we reported to our board last month, we are already seeing some positive results from these initiatives. A number of serious incidents is trending down, and we're hearing from customers and employees they appreciate our additional efforts.
Deputy Mayor Jennifer McKelvey says the TTC needs to be safe.
I don't think any of us want to be in front of a camera and asked again what we have to say to the parents of a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old that has been killed on the transit system. It is absolutely horrifying.
Councillor and mayoral candidate Josh Matlow says the investment is important, but he says the city also needs to address the root causes of violence.
Obviously, we need to meet the moment where there is enormous insecurity and justified concern about safety on the TTC that needs to be addressed. That being said, we can't just keep putting Band-Aids on it. We need to have a genuine plan, a well-funded plan.
As we've heard, it's a temporary sort of stopgap to address this issue that obviously Torontonians are rightfully concerned about. We want to make sure, and we have a responsibility, frankly, that people are safe on the TTC.
But Councillor Jamal Myers worries that pulling money out of reserves meant to stabilize service will hurt the TTC in the long term.
In the immediate term, we might see some improvement, but nothing to make a big difference in the direction we're heading, which is toward deteriorating TTC services and a less safe TTC.
So Council's motion will now let the TTC CEO extend a number of contracts, and one of those includes one for 50 private security guards. Now, those guards are already on the transit system, and because of the extension, may remain there for the rest of the year. And that motion from Deputy Mayor Jennifer McKelvey, Council passed it, and it calls on both levels of government, that's the province and the federal government, to come forward with more cash for the TTC. Sean Jeffords, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, safety on public transit is a main focus for another person officially running to be mayor of Toronto. Four-term MPP Mitzi Hunter announced that policy plank as she confirmed her intentions today.
Well, Toronto definitely is at a turning point when it comes to the future of our city. You know, we could go off a cliff, or we could, you know, turn our city and make sure that we retain our spot as one of the top tier cities in the world. Toronto needs a champion, and I want to be that champion of Toronto, just as I've been for my constituents in Scarborough-Guildwood.
Hunter says in addition to public transit safety, she's also going to focus on building more housing and addressing homelessness. She also vows that she will not use the strong mayor powers bestowed onto the mayor of Toronto by the provincial government. She is the latest to join an already crowded mayoral race. An official registration for candidates begins April 3rd. Historic news out of New York tonight. For the first time ever, a former U.S. president is facing criminal charges. Donald Trump indicted by a grand jury in Manhattan in connection with payments that were made to an adult film actress during the 2016 presidential campaign. $130,000 was paid to Stormy Daniels to remain silent about claims of an extramarital affair. Trump has denied any wrongdoing and is expected to surrender to authorities in New York next week. Trump is currently presumed to be the front-runner for the Republicans' presidential nominee for 2024, a campaign he says he will not abandon regardless of these legal issues. Back here in our city, temperature hovering around 0 tonight as we look live at the city's skyline. Let's turn to Colette Kennedy now for a first look at weather. And Colette, a bit chilly this evening, but what a beautiful night.
Yeah, you've got that right, Chris, right? You know, it took some time for things to get going, and it was in the later afternoon that we got to our daytime highs, and generally a kind of cool day, but a nice evening, like you said, that we've experienced because we don't have active weather, and that is going to be changing. But just checking out those daytime highs from sitting right at 0 for the nation's capital, 6 in Windsor, just snuck that in a little later in the day. Sarnia as well, and 4 degrees there into Toronto. So here's what's happening through the overnight hours. Now, I've stopped this at 4 a.m. Might be, you know, a little before, a little bit after, but the important thing to note comes in as rain for southwestern Ontario. We will see this coming in as some light wet snow into the GTA, and then mixing maybe a few ice pellets in there, a bit of freezing rain and eventually it changes over to rain, but it's going to take some time to do that. Now, closer to the lakeshore, more of a chance it stays as rain, but just get a little bit away from the lake, and we are looking at it starting as that kind of sloppy mess. And then we have off and on showers, and I'm going to stop this at 11 tomorrow because it's not going to be over with, and I know you're going to want to know what's happening into the weekend. We'll have more time to discuss that when I come back. Know that tonight we're headed to 0 and tomorrow 7, and eventually we'll keep climbing into the evening hours.
I am keen for that information. All right, we'll talk to you again later on in the show, Colette. Now to the story about the father of a young Milton woman whose life has changed forever. 3 weeks ago, Brady McCoy was severely burned in an acid attack. While police say a 57-year-old family member is the suspect, McCoy remains on life support with life-altering injuries. Talia Ricci spoke with her dad, who says she'll never be fighting alone.
On March 9th, Dean McCoy says his mission as a father changed.
Now I've got to do what I can to take care of my little girl.
Halton police say on that day, Brady McCoy was walking in a Milton neighborhood when she was approached by another woman. Investigators allege the attacker threw an unknown chemical onto the 22-year-old.
I've heard from ambulance and police, and even the hardened police officers were shaken by this. They were quite rattled.
Dean says Brady is still on life support and her injuries are life-altering.
For a while, really the only communication was, one squeeze of my finger for yes and 2 for no. She's going to have needs for the rest of her life. We've already been advised by the doctors that, she will be a patient for life as part of her recovery.
Since the attack, a GoFundMe page has raised over $100,000, and countless people have offered rides to the hospital, meals, and words of support. Dean says his gratitude is difficult to put into words.
It's unlike anything I've ever experienced in my life. My wife and I are pretty much at the hospital all day, every day. One day Brady's going to hear about all this, but I guess it's just the way things should be with communities,
On April 14th, a fundraising event is planned at the Rad Brothers Sports Bar in Milton. Mary Camastra is helping to organize it.
The outpouring of support from this community is incredible. I'm not shocked because Milton always comes together to help each other out.
Dean says him and his wife adopted Brady from Vietnam when she was 5 months old and that she grew into an amazing young woman. He says she loved working with special needs children as an EA with the Halton District School Board and was just about to start teachers college. That's on pause for now, but the father says he's trying to stay hopeful.
Well, she's a fighter and she's determined, and she always puts the needs of others first, and I don't see that changing. She'll be back stronger than ever.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
We want what every parent wants, which is a learning environment that is safe and healthy for our kids to go to school.
Coming up, some parents are sounding the alarm about potentially damaging noise levels from the construction of the Ontario line set to run next to a Toronto school. We'll tell you about their concerns, plus. Hey there, welcome back. Construction for the Ontario Line subway is underway, and while some people are eager to see the 15-kilometer transit expansion, for some parents with kids at a school near all that construction, it's a noisy headache. Patrick Swadden explains what they're calling on the government to do about it.
Everett and his friend Nathaniel are both in kindergarten at Pape Avenue Jr. The K-6 public school sits along the route of the province's proposed Ontario line, the new line being built by Metrolinx between the Ontario Science Centre and Exhibition Place downtown. Everett's mother, Kara McCutcheon, says she's worried the effect construction will have on children at Pape School.
We're talking about years of constant invasive noise levels that will impact their learning.
The proposed Ontario line will run underground along Pape Avenue, right next to the school. An elevated section will be located to the southwest where Gerrard Station is planned. A group of Pape Avenue parents joined McCutcheon at Queen's Park today.
We want what every parent wants, which is a learning environment that is safe and healthy for our kids to go to school.
And the group has specific demands.
The noise level in an occupied classroom should not exceed 40 to 50 decibels.
That number comes from the World Health Organization. The WHO saying sustained exposure to levels above this can cause chronic hearing damage for children.
The Ontario line construction plan is projected to have decibels in the range of 69 and 120.
McCutcheon's group has submitted formal requests to both Metrolinx and the Minister of Transportation. She says Metrolinx has formed a committee that's met with them, but stopped short of promising a noise limit. It's drawn the ire of NDP MPP Peter Tabbins, who represents the riding.
What I'm asking the Minister, Speaker, is to tell Metrolinx to set a standard that they will be held to. It will require investment, but we need to have an agreed standard. World Health Organization is the right one to protect the children and protect the learning environment.
I want to assure families that Metrolinx is committed to ensuring that the highest levels of safety standards are maintained throughout construction, because we all agree the Ontario line needs to be built.
Mulrooney says Metrolinx has installed a noise level monitor by the school, but wouldn't commit to WHO guidelines. That's left McCutcheon hoping for more.
Metrolinx has the resources and they have the time to plan and do this properly and to protect our children.
Patrick Swadden, CBC News, Toronto.
The boys of summer were back in action today and looking to make a big impact this season.
In the air to center field. This is plenty deep enough. The catch made by O'Neill. Here comes Kiermaier, and the Blue Jays have taken the lead.
The heavy hitters did not disappoint in Game 1. George Springer had 5 hits, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. drove in 3 runs as the visiting Jays beat St. Louis 10-9. While the offense was on fire, the pitching left a lot to be desired. The Jays went through 7 pitchers before closer Jordan Romano locked it down. So fans no doubt riding high off this Game 1 victory, and the expectations for the whole season are sky high. Greg Ross has more on all that.
And the 2-2 on the way, and it's lined to right center and down for a base hit.
A new season always brings new hope, but for Blue Jays fans, hopes are higher than they've been in 30 years.
Yeah, really excited. I think the Jays can go all the way this year. The Jays have really been knocking the door the last couple of seasons, so I think this is the season they're really going to break it down.
I think there's just been so much anticipation, like we really want to get to the end, and we've been so close the last couple of years, and I think, you know, with who we've added, I think this could be the year for sure.
Just the change of the players and the management, I think they're going in the right direction.
The Jays will continue to rely on returning stars like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, and Alek Manoah, but they've parted ways with some key players from last year, including outfielders Teoscar Hernandez and Lourdes Gurriel Jr., replacing them with Kevin Kiermaier and Dalton Varsho.
You got to shake things up every once in a while. And the truth of the matter is Teoscar Hernandez and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. were poor outfielders. They just were not good defensively. They realized that they had to get better at run prevention, and they put together the best outfield in baseball. The best defensive outfield in franchise history.
And defense in the outfield will be key after some major renovations at the Rogers Centre that has drastically changed the dimensions of the ballpark.
I think a lot of the fly balls that died at the warning track are going to be home runs or doubles now.
Fans will get their first look at the newly renovated Rogers Centre on April 11th when the Blue Jays play their home opener.
We're going there, and we can't wait to be there. I want to see all the new outfields, see all, like everything they're going to do. $300 million into an old stadium, the stadium I love, and where my mom brought me there, my parents brought me there. It's such a great time.
The Blue Jays will play series in St. Louis, Kansas City, and Anaheim before finally returning home to the Rogers Centre on April 11th when they'll host the Detroit Tigers in their home opener. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
So the boys of summer in action, but it is certainly spring out there. Time for a check on the long-range forecast with Colette. And Colette, after today's great sun, tomorrow is looking a bit unsettled.
That is a good word for it, Chris. We are talking about unsettled weather, and it's going to stick around for a little while. We've kind of been on this pattern of every other day something. Well, this is a pretty broad system that's moving in, and because of that, it hangs around. It's going to have an impact on us for a few days. So we've got snow and rain mix late overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. Wet and windy into Saturday. The temperature will climb, and then it will start to plummet. And on Sunday, yes, cooler for sure, but yeah, we'll get some sunshine and we could take a breather there and have some better outdoor weather for any outdoor activity. So overnight tonight, there's that snow. We're mixing up perhaps a time with some ice pellets in there. Near the lake, it's going to be rain. It's going to be rain through the Niagara region back into southwestern Ontario, but it's still going to be a slower commute tomorrow morning with this. That wave kind of goes through. Looks like things are improving. It's just a drier slot, and we'll still have showers come through. And then another round, the next wave going through later on Friday, carrying on into Saturday morning. Yes, if we're lucky, we might see some sunny breaks in here, but that instability on the backside of this system means more rain showers will push in on Saturday. And as the colder air comes in and the temperatures fall, changing over any of that moisture left behind to even some flurries. Now, at this point, there are warnings that are into northeastern Ontario for the heavier snow there because it's more of a rain event. We're looking at just through Friday what we'll be seeing here. Then the heavier amounts will come into areas in the lee of Georgian Bay there, and we'll see these numbers climb up to 20 to 30 millimeters of rain that we'll be talking about even for the GTA. That potential, looking at the snow, yes, we may see a few centimeters to the north of the city here, and then that's going to be kind of washing away. And that's just talking about Friday, not the heavier snow comes in Friday night into Saturday in the areas to the northeast I mentioned. Okay, overnight temperatures right around 0 for Toronto, but that temperature will actually be climbing in southwestern Ontario, and that's why it's just rain for you folks. 7 on Friday, Saturday, windy, yes, 12, maybe even into the teens, and then the temperature falls. So -6, Chris, Sunday morning. And it's going to be a little chilly Sunday afternoon, but the sun will feel good.
All right. Finally, tonight, for weeks, thousands of people have flocked to the small Ontario town of Hagersville, hoping to catch the Ace, a lottery that tonight saw the potential jackpot up to around $2 million, and somebody finally won it. It took 45 weeks of draws, but the Ace was finally pulled tonight, netting one lucky winner the $200,000 weekly prize plus the $1.8 million jackpot. Congratulations to the winner. And that is our show for you tonight. Thanks for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night.